my job for today, how to push forward now that we're halfway through 2023.
Yun!
Can I get a raise of hand who here is going to conquer and succeed this year? Can I get a raise of hands? Confidently, please. Very good. That's going to be our goal, huh? So that's why our topic for this morning is entitled, What Winners Are Made Of, the Power of Building Growth Mindset. Is it okay to call you all as winners? Yes, dapat. Basic yan. That's a non-negotiable title I can give to all of you. So, if it's your first time to join us, paano ko magkano itong clicker na to? Is the clicker working? Check lang. Or pa-move na lang yung slide if that's okay. Because I'm clicking the clicker but it's not moving. Ayan. Gumagana na siya. So if it's your first time to join us, this is our humble origin. A few years ago, I joined a reality TV show called The Apprentice. The Apprentice is a TV show created by the same guy who invented Survivor. That's Mr. Mark Burnett. You guys are familiar with Survivor? Yes? So one day he said, I want to replicate the success of Survivor, but rather than putting people in a jungle or in an island, I want to put them in the streets of New York. So the idea is that you have to pit against each other business executives, lawyers, and engineers. Every episode, you have to undergo sales, marketing, and negotiation tasks. If you win, you proceed to the next round. If you lose, one of you becomes a candidate for getting fired. And in every episode, they fire one candidate until only one person gets left behind to become the winner and the apprentice of the show. I was such a big fan when I was in high school. Sabi ko, kung magkakaroon ng Apprentice Philippines or Apprentice Asia, I would love to join it and raise the Philippine flag. Gratefully, after a lot of countries made their own franchise, there's Apprentice UK, Apprentice Australia, Apprentice Czech Republic, Italy, Spain. They finally created Apprentice Asia. There were 30,000 applicants who joined the competition. The 30,000 were trimmed down to the 12 most good-looking contestants that you're seeing on stage right now. Joke yun. And I was so lucky and grateful to have been part of the show and gratefully emerged as the winner. These are some of the clients we have engaged in the past. After winning the show and after serving 3 years as the Chief of Staff of AirAsia, I manage my own consultancy firm. That's the JY Consultancy and Ventures Group. We specialize in organizational behavior. So whether it's about public speaking, business writing, leadership, digital marketing, and the like, we help organizations propel their employees and their talents also to success. Parang, yan na gumagana yung clicker, but is it okay if I can just negotiate with the team upstairs? If I do this, can you just move the slides for me? Is that okay? Okay. So these are some of the clients we have engaged in the past. We've conducted our sessions as far as in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, as far as in New York, in United States. So here's my quick question now. Can I challenge you with a warm-up question? The pandemic is hopefully ending. Can I say that? Or I think it has ended, right? Wala na yata nakamask ko, konti na lang. Yes? So can I ask the question now? How do you feel these days? Letter A, no change versus pre-COVID-19. Letter B, anxious and worried. Letter C, challenged but taking it one day at a time. Or letter D, optimistic that I will be able to get through. Can I get an answer? Wala po tamang sagot ha. You can give me the most honest answer. Your answer could be letter B. Sometimes I still feel anxious because I don't know what's going to happen. But I also know that that feeling needs to be graduated into a challenge. And eventually, that feeling has to be graduated into optimism. Optimism meaning, no matter what happens, as long as I hustle and as long as I ask for help, because it's okay to ask for help, I will be able to get through. Amen? Agree? Yes? And so having said that, why am I so obsessed about change? Change is one thing that radically alters the way we see reality. Right? Konting galaw lang, kunyari hindi ka makakota ng konti, you get discouraged, and you say, maybe this isn't for me. Can you relate to that? Yes? And then you finally see someone who inched their way, waited for a bit, and did something about it, and said, maybe there's another way of doing it, and finally they were also able to succeed afterwards. I'm saying this because in reality, I think may dalawang klaseng tao sa mundo. Some people fall under what we call as, can I?
Recording in progress.
Okay. Pwede pa move po ang ating slides? Because I don't think hindi umaabot ang clicker natin.
Recording stopped.
Sorry.
Okay. Move natin ang clicker lang.
Lawrence pa next.
O sige, let's get this done easier. Can I ask who's the one sa taas? Do you guys see me here? Can I be here na lang instead? Can I get a thumbs up if you guys see me upstairs? Yes? Okay. So can I negotiate with you? If I do this, can you please move the slide? Next animation. Is that okay? So please take note, there will be certain slides. Talaga nag-operations na tayo dito, no? There are certain slides that have multiple animations in it. So don't expect that one slide, one animation lang. There might be multiple. So gaganon ako minsan. Is that okay to be negotiated with you? Yes? Can I get a thumbs up from the technical team? Okay? So yeah, so let's move the slide. Can we do that now? Alright. So I'm saying this because I think there are two types of people in this world. Some people are like a thermometer, and some people are like a thermostat. Very good. Thank you. Palakpakan naman po yung ating technical. Okay. This is gonna be an hour, so I need to be in sync with you to get this done. Okay? What's the difference between the two? Can I ask the participants? Ano pagkakaiba? I'm sure you've experienced what a thermometer is, but what's a thermostat? Anong appliances ang makikita sa bahay na may thermostat? A refrigerator, an air conditioner, ano ba? Kapag social, by the way, don't call it as ref. You call it as fridge. Right? So call it as a fridge, right? Ano pa? Heater, air conditioner, etc. What's the difference? A thermometer, it's like that, reports the temperature when it changes. Meaning, pag nagbago, it's gonna report, uy, may problema po, uy, lumamig, uy, uminit. On the other hand, a thermostat does beyond that. Yes? Question, what does a thermostat do? All thermostats have a thermometer, but not all thermometers have a thermostat. Yes? What does a thermostat do? Sorry, yes? Okay. Automatic? Okay, ano yung automatic niya? It regulates, right? The better verb is to regulate, not to automatic. So it regulates the temperature. Meaning, pag sinabi mo na kapag matutulog ka na mamayang gabi, and the best temperature to sleep with air conditioner is what? 22. Grabe naman ang 16. Seryoso yan? Naka-fleece jacket kaya yata yan. 22 maybe? 21? I think. 18. Sige. Baka iba yung iba, mainit talaga sila. That's 22 degrees. The thermostat is gonna act harder and say, I'm gonna work harder because I need to go to the equilibrium. So it does not only react, it's also going to respond. It's going to adjust to the situation no matter what the changes are. That is what a thermostat does, right? Can you move the slide? So it controls temperature. Question, which one do you choose in times of changes? Do you choose to become a thermometer or do you choose to become a thermostat?
Thermostat.
You choose to become the thermostat. People who are like a thermometer, pag nagkaroon ng problema, they will just say, ay, talo ako, wala na. They react, they complain, talak ng talak, but they don't do anything about it.
Yes.
A thermostat, right? A thermostat, on the other hand, is gonna say, okay, plan A isn't working, I need to do something else. I need to go for plan B, I need to go for plan C. There must be a way to get this done. Because if I see someone doing so well, then that means it's possible. And my only route, therefore, is to find out how they're doing it right. Either I copy it or I even make a version that's better than how they're doing it. That's a thermostat. And at the end of the day, winners choose to become a thermostat, not a thermometer. You will see that. People who succeed will always choose to become the thermostat in this case. So here are a few steps I'd like to share. John, how do I become a thermostat in tough and challenging times? Right? So first one, in sync pa tayo. Next slide please. Here's my first tip. I'd like you to please embrace change as an ally, not as an enemy. As we all say, if you cannot manage your ship because suddenly the winds are moving, you don't adjust the winds. Rather, you adjust your sails. Yes? I'm saying this because, can you please tell me what happened in these two companies in 2020, in 2012? Do you remember what happened to them? What did they do? They filed for bankruptcy. That's right. If you remember Kodak and Nokia, they were number one in what they do. Yes? Do you remember your 3310, kahit ilang beses mong ihampas, buhay pa rin? It takes 5 days for it to run out of battery. 5 days. Yes? And the CEO of Nokia didn't do anything wrong. They were just they kept doing a lot of phones. Problem is, they forgot that technology changes. Consumers change. Friendster came into the picture and told us that, hey, dapat hindi lang black and white ang nakikita natin. Dapat colored. Dapat may photos. Dapat may videos. That was Friendster. At nagkaroon ng MySpace, nagkaroon ng Multiply. Remember that? And then there became Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, etc. That also became the casualty for Kodak because people no longer needed to print photos. What did people do? Upload photos online, right? And here's a really good moral lesson. Please remember that no matter how you are number one, there will always be someone while you are sleeping who's planning to take you out of that number one spot. And please remember this, no matter how good you are, you're only as good as your last invoice. You're only as good as your last song. You're only as good as that last PowerPoint presentation that you sent. Things can radically change in a snap of a finger the moment technology changes. Who here is on Threads? Okay. Threads? Hindi yung Threads kumukha. Threads. Which is gonna be the replacement. I think there's no way out here. Diba? I think it's gonna be the new Twitter now, given the trajectory. Right? That's an example that in just overnight, 30 million people signed up to Threads and are now, if you don't know Threads, by the way, it's okay, Jesus loves you. Totally fine. But as part of social media marketing, you ought to know that because that might just be the next big thing when it comes to engaging customers. Right? So same thing happened also for Kodak and also for Nokia. You're only as good as your last performance. And when I say this, therefore, if you look at psychology, may dalawang klaseng tao sa mundo. Some people are falling under the state of being, and some people fall under the state of becoming. Ano po pagkakaiba? The state of being is where you tell yourself, I finally achieved what I wanted, kumota na ako, okay na ako dito, di na ako gagalaw. What I've been doing for the past 5 years is the perfect recipe for what I will do for the next 5 years. Okay? Or it's where you say to yourself also, this is my line of expertise, this is where I'm comfortable. Right? We do a lot of workshops for a lot of organizations. And for example, in the 1990s, one of the better ways to promote is via flyering. Nalala niyo pa ba yun? Meron pa ngayon naman konting flyering ngayon. Yes? But there are people who are up until today believe that flyering is the best way to get their customers. And I keep on telling them, yes, you can, but at some point, that's also going to die when everyone is becoming digital. When everyone is also banking on their referrals from their strongest connections, rather than just from keeping it up with strangers in malls, for example. Don't just be stuck in the state of being. I want you to go to the state of becoming. The state of becoming is where you tell to yourself, okay, nanalo na ako, I'm number one, but can I also ask, for example, mission 1 accomplished, but I am not satisfied. Yes? Because I think I can afford to do more. It's also where I tell to myself, how can I make sure that this victory can be repeated over and over again? Because if you're only able to do it once, anong tawag doon? That's right. Chamba lang ba tayo? You're not. You've been consistently number one across the board for many, many years. That's not chamba. That's hard work. That's competency. That's being smart in what you do at the end of the day. And you don't want to be labeled in your teams as someone. What we call the state of becoming, in this case, the state of being is what we call as the performance zone. The state of becoming is what we call as the stretching zone. And the stretching zone is where you want to be as much as you can. The stretching zone is where you tell to yourself, ang dami ko nang alam, pero madami pa akong pwedeng malaman. If you go to a buffet table for food, can I get a raise of hands if your loves eating food at buffet? Sarap, di ba? Like breakfast buffet. At some point, you're gonna tell to yourself, oops, I can't eat everything. It's not gonna be healthy for me. Yes? But learning buffet is the type of buffet wherein there are no limits. Yes, you can keep on learning and be as greedy as much as you can because the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. And the ultimate goal is to be in that space as well. I want to give an example about this. Can I get a raise of hands who here is into basketball? Yes? May social life ba ang mga taga Who's hosting the FIBA 2023? It's the Philippines together with Indonesia and Japan, right? So I want to give a quick example about being versus becoming. Look at the two graphs here. So left side, by the way, this is Steph Curry, which I think is one of the legends in NBA. The left side talks about his shots when he was still starting out, 2009, 2010. The right side are his shots when he was starting to become the MVP. And try to notice what's the difference. Ano nagbago sa mga shots niya? And you don't need to play basketball to understand this. Konti lang yung kailangan mong alam. But you will be able to see the difference. What do you see? There were more, what type of shots? There were more three-point shots. This guy said, I'm not as tall as others. I think Steph is only 6'2". It would be amazing if you're 6'5" or 7 feet, for example, in the NBA. So it says, I cannot bank on two-point shots all the time. I need to raise the value higher. So I'm going to be way better in making three-point shots. And that's how you make the game also bigger. This was noticed by a lot of the NBA teams. Sabi nila, oo nga no, I think it's working for Steph. I think it's also been the same strategy for me. So a lot of the NBA teams did the same, and that became a trend across all NBA teams moving forward. 2001, the shots were scattered all around. And if you look at 2020, for example, there are still a lot of two-point shots, but many shots are now concentrated in three-point shots. In fact, the biggest aspect of training is now being good in three-point, long-range shots. This is an example of being to becoming. Even if you're so good, you tell to yourself, what else can I push? What else can I do? What else should I anticipate? Because I don't know what will happen again. Maybe a pandemic can happen again. Maybe a new digital technology can happen again. Maybe one of the planets in the solar system will not be a planet anymore again, for example. And those things are going to be part of your success if you get to anticipate them. For many buyers, for example, and you've noticed this, it's interesting to take note that a lot of customers have changed in a span of 2 years during the pandemic. Agree? Yes? For example, number one, speed has become one of the most important factors for taking on a prospect. Agree? Yes? Meaning, the moment mag-message sa'yo sa Facebook, dahil nag-cover ka nila, or refer ka nila, at minessage ka sa Viber ng kanilang kaibigan, for example, the ultimate expectation of the customer is, sana sagot agad within the next hour. Ako nga ang standard ko dapat in the next 30 minutes may sagot. Because if a customer does not see any response within that span amount of time, what does the customer do? They leave. They look for someone else. Because if my perception is, it's Sun Life or it's another insurance, they're all perfect substitutes, if that's their perception, it doesn't matter who I go to. I'm just going to go to that person who will respond the fastest to my response. Because I'm too busy for this. And so speed of the response is important. Can I get the raise of hand? Who here has a Facebook page for their promotions? Yes? Yung iba wala? Okay, Jesus loves you, but you need to have one. I don't think that's negotiable. I think it's an important aspect of online selling if you need to expand your reach beyond on-site prospecting. For those who have Facebook page, for example, I assume you have automated responses and replies. Yes? Kung wala, gawin po yan tonight. When I say automated response, the moment someone asks a question in your messenger, kailangan the basic information such as your mobile number, your email address, or whatever brochure that you sent, automatic lumalabas. Meaning, kahit tulog ka, lahat ng responses, automated lumalabas as well. Therefore, you get to capture the customer immediately. Speed of response. And I'm going to say this, not just insurance industry, but across all other organizations. Food and beverage, technology, real estate. It's all about how fast you can respond. The second is the quality of information. I don't like it na sagot ka na ng sagot, pero hindi kompleto ang sagot. Remember, insurance policies are one of the most complicated products to sell. Yes? And it takes a certain level of understanding for people to know that. And the more people get confused in the science of decision making, the more I get confused, the more I delay my decision. The more I delay my decision, the likely I will not buy or pay at all. Yes? What do I mean? I'll explain this later on in my slides, but my point is, if you are able to understand the profile of the customer, do not give them 100 options. Curate the options to what you think is best suited for them and offer that these are the best options that they can take. We call that, by the way, as the paradox of choice. The more options you give to a customer, the more they think that they will regret the decision because they think that they're not making the right decision. Because they don't know what is the right decision. Yes? If you go to a supermarket, ang sarap tignan, madaming brands ng cereals, madaming brands ng noodles. But at the expense of too many options, what happens? You take up so much time deciding. And sometimes, your mindset is, later na lang yan, hindi pa ako sure eh. And we all know that response. Yung later na lang or bukas balikan mo ko becomes what? Balikan mo ko next week. Next week becomes next month becomes never. And you don't make a sale at all. The easier you make it for the customer to decide, likely they will also decide. That's part of the quality of information. So for example, maganda sana yung infographics. And you guys are in that good part because the marketing team of Sun Life has a lot of amazing graphics and designs. You're already supported for that. But the job needs to come from you in explaining what those brochure mean. For example, right? May question ako, pati ba si F.L.A.M.E kasama sa kanila or pure insurance lang? Both, right? Okay. Right. Okay. Sige. So that's good. But I just want to give my example because I've been in Sun Life and all my family members for the past 10 years, for example. My agent did not know that I was looking for money market, equity, etc. She only learned about that on the 8th year that I was with her. And that's because she never asked. And that's because she never shared this information with me. Right? Those are things that surprise you, especially if you're talking, for example, to high net worth individuals. It can surprise if you can even expand what you can cross-sell to them. The third is the payment facility, right? Important po to have, please do not underestimate the power of this because sometimes people decide if they want to buy, if there is access to buy it. Yes? So for example, what is the most famous way of paying for a policy in your case? Online banking, ano ba? Cash, right? Credit card. Why do a lot of high net worth individuals want to pay via credit card? Because of the points, right? And sometimes, again, bless her heart, but I love Chris, who's my agent at Sun Life. But she only told this to me later on. And I said, Chris, I want to pay via credit card because I want to get that cash back. I want to get those points. Yung pala, there is a way. I just need to go to the branch, 4 blocks where I live, in Sun Life BGC, and swipe my credit card and get it done there. Online is also good. Pero meron kasing parang BPI promo na kailangan physical ng pag-swipe eh. Meron siyang ganun. But online is also good. But even the online and the physical swiping, for example, sometimes are not properly explained. I get disappointed that there are still a lot of agents wherein ang kanilang kalakaran is checking. And I understand, some people do want to pay with that. But please take note, in Southeast Asia, we're the only country in the world that still pays a lot in checks. And sometimes checks are not efficient. Right? Checks do bounce, right? And checks require you to track it or to pick it up, which is time that you could have used for something else. And sometimes, if only you inform the customer that there are other payment options available, they would have taken that option if you only inform them as well. Right? So payment options is important. And finally, the last one, which I think is also important, is easy to process. One of the biggest complaints in insurance is mapakadaming blanks na kailangan i-fill out. Yes? Right? So this is where we tend to negotiate. Which are the blanks that I can fill out for the customer? But, you know what's the most important part? In helping them appreciate why the blanks need to be filled out. Sometimes, the only solution is to explain to them why. Yes? It's just a matter of why. Ma'am, for security purposes, because we have to understand X, Y, and Z, because it's required by whatever regulatory body. And when you explain it to them, rather than telling them that it's because kailangan po ng sunlight, which irritates certain people, it will help them appreciate why they need to comply at the end of the day. These things are very important today because people tend to compare. Hindi na po tayo parang 1990s na hindi ko alam kung anong ginagawa ng ibang kumpanya. Hindi ko alam kung anong ginagawa ng ibang tao. Now they get to compare. And remember, in the case of insurance, ang kalaban nyo ay hindi lang insurance. Agree? Anong kalaban nyo? Everything in this world that requires spending money. Yes? I'm gonna delay buying a policy because I want to travel muna to Japan this month. So I will not sign up. Yes? Or another example, I will not buy a policy because if I am going to put a down every year of let's say 50,000 or 30,000 pesos, medyo okay din kasi yung real estate eh. So I'd rather put my money investing in real estate instead. That's also your competitor. Okay? Please take note of that. Okay? Another thing I'd like to share is this. So, why am I obsessed about comparing? And you might keep on saying, but John, hindi ba dapat I should only race against myself? Agree? Have you seen those on the internet? People who say that, do not race against others, race only against yourself. Yes? I disagree with this. Why? If your standards happen to be low and you only compete against yourself, then you are competing against those standards. Akala mo gwapo-gwapo mo, di ka kasi lumalabas ng bahay. And that's because you created your own benchmark standards. If unfortunately, lahat ng tao sa bahay, pangit, at ikaw yung medyo okay na, iisipin mo, ito na ang pinakatuktok ng kagwapuhan. Which isn't the case. Because the moment you step out of the house, you will realize, gosh, there are so many other people who are way more good looking than I am. This is how business operates. You cannot even tell to yourself that I should only compare myself versus who I am. To become the best of the best, you have to benchmark yourself versus the best of the best. Agree? Yes? If you have been born into a very humble village where the standards are low, konti lang masaya na, and that's fine. You can be for that route, and there's nothing wrong with that. Problem is, we're in the business ethic. We're looking for what's the best of the best. To become the best of the best, identify who is the best. And that may not be within your community or your village. It could be outside your city. It could be outside your country. It could be outside your industry, for example. And this is where I will say, even if you say you're at the peak, please don't say that. Because someone else will finally tell you, no, John, that's not the peak. This is the real peak. And that's where I will keep on telling to myself that sometimes my ceiling is just someone else's floor. I'm gonna let that sink in for a few seconds. Sometimes my ceiling could just be someone else's floor. Akala mo galing-galing mo na. Akala mo binibigay mo na lahat. Akala mo na you're sacrificing so much. And then you finally see someone from another team or from another department and you realize, gosh, basic lang pala yun. Level 1 lang pala yun. I could have actually done more, and it's possible to do more. This is why when I see someone who's way better than me, I don't get competitive. I do slightly, but I get inspired. Why? Because I tell myself, akala ko ito na yung pinakakaya ko, yung pala, meron pa palang pwede. So thank you for proving to me that I can go beyond what I'm capable of. Yes? That is the ultimate goal. Be inspired, not just being competitive or insecure when you see someone who's way better than you. And if you happen to become a manager or a leader in the future, please remember, the ultimate role of a leader is to make more leaders out of others. Once you become a leader, it's no longer about you, but the people that you serve. The highest form of leadership is servant leadership, where you tell to yourself that their success is also your success. Right? Remember, great leaders do not compete against their people. They support their people to become a grander, better versions of who they are. Okay? So, can I just give away some prizes now before I continue? Yes, pwede ba? Papagising lang. Yes? So, the only gift that I can give to you is the gift of learning. We conduct monthly workshops at the SMX Convention Center in SM Aura in Fort BGC. The next batch is happening on July 28th and July 29th. I want to give away 10 tickets to one person ha, na pwede mong piliin kung sino gusto mong bigyan. One person with 10, o sige, let's make it 2. Kasi meron pa ako ibang prizes mamaya. So we have lots. 5, yes. Actually, no, 2 people, 10 each. So that's 20, that's a lot. Okay? Ganyan kalakas ang PM nyo sa akin. Diba? Okay, so that's on July 28, Friday. We are conducting a 3-hour workshop on social media marketing. That's understanding how to manage your social media algorithms, how to get more prospects, how to understand how a post becomes viral across platforms. The ticket is worth $1,799, but let's cover 2 winners. If you answer this question right, we'll give you 10 tickets each and you can choose who's gonna attend. Is that cool? So pabilisan po na kamay ha. So I'm gonna look at everyone's hands and then we're gonna see whoever's gonna get this right. It's a random trivia question. Okay? Sigaw na lang. Pero raise hand muna para makita ko. I'm very good